a lot more work in Oak Park on the commercial side of things. So one of the assets in this neighborhood is the business district at Euclid and 6th Avenue. It's a more historic feeling business district. It is on the historic registry. And so we've worked with a number of commercial property owners. We've had several partnerships with the Neighborhood Development Corporation, which is a nonprofit commercial developer, to kind of upgrade the buildings in that area. So we've done everything from commercial facades and adding public art to code compliance upgrades. How do we help the Slowdown, which is a coffee shop that went into the Highland Park Hardware building. We had some funding assistance to help them put in the grease interceptor, the restrooms, and do some of the plumbing and electrical upgrades that they needed to do in order to make that space compliant. And then we're also looking at things like exterior site improvements and parking. We had an apartment building on Euclid Avenue, a 10-unit apartment building. It had lost its grandfather rights because it had been vacant for a number of years. They had to go through a rezoning process. And we've got several projects in this area where the site has some constraints. So trying to help developers work through some of those challenges. These are just some of those examples. So, new awnings on what was the Highland Park Hardware, where the Slowdown is now located. Some help there, as I mentioned, and then facade work on what is now the Des Moines Mercantile. So then Columbus Park is the last of our 4 neighborhoods, and I'll be done after this. This is the neighborhood that is probably, if we were ranking them from healthiest to least healthy, this neighborhood is probably towards the least healthy end of our little 4 spectrum. Just existing housing conditions are fairly run down. A lot of the housing stock was built 100 years ago, 80 to 100 years ago, and it wasn't terribly well built to begin with. So this is the neighborhood where the plan actually called for a fair amount of redevelopment. We're doing a little bit of both. So we do have, I'll come back in a minute. We do have the purple area on this map. This is out of the neighborhood plan. That's really the area that we're looking at preserving what's there and investing in what's there. The blue area is more of a mix of, certainly some of the single family that exists today will stay. But as opportunities come up, we're also looking for lots that we can redevelop either into new single family or into more of the missing middle type housing, row houses, townhouses, small scale multifamily. And then the orange area looking at more of a mixed use commercial development. Again, that kind of missing middle style housing, live workspaces, maybe some small retail spaces that's more affordable to startups. So this area is a little bit different than the other 3 because we are looking at those redevelopment options. We're still doing a lot of the same work, though, on the existing single-family homes, as far as garages and deferred maintenance and retaining walls and all of those types of things. Just an example of new gutters on a garage. The other thing, so with the redevelopment happening in Columbus Park, we're also looking at what we can do, how we can promote new infill construction, and how do we encourage kind of appropriate urban infill. So we've got a couple of things that we're looking at least to get started, and are hoping to see some of those start later this year. Looking for design that's complementary to what's in the neighborhood already. There isn't really a predominant architecture style in the Columbus Park neighborhood, but there are kind of consistent roof lines. So we're trying to, stick to that and at least be complementary to that existing neighborhood character, but still bringing in some of those more modern layouts and amenities. So mostly I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a taste of what we're up to and put us on your radar. We try to collaborate with the city as much as we can, being, that the city has really invested in us. I don't think I mentioned that the city of Des Moines and Polk County are our two sole funders at this point. So we are entirely publicly funded at the moment. This past fiscal year, we had a $5 million budget, and next fiscal year, we're up at 10. And then with that, we have 3 city council members on our board and 3 Polk County supervisors, and then 3 members of the private sector. So I will leave it there because I know we're running out of time, but I'm happy to take a question or two if you have any.
Doesn't sound like there's any questions, Amber. I appreciate you joining us and sharing the information on InvestESM and what you guys have been up to. We do have, go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, Jan, I was just going to say, yeah, Amber, congratulations, because I think I remember you being a person to watch in the register.
I was. Thank you.
No, congratulations. I mean, I think, just listening to your presentation, I'm not surprised that, and I really appreciate everything you're doing for all of us in Des Moines. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Jan. I appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Jason knows how to get a hold of me. So if you think of anything later, just reach out and let me know. I should also mention you actually have a project that we're a partner in later on your agenda, the Benchmark Real Estate Group on 6th Avenue. We have some funding in that project.
I believe that's item 1 on the agenda, which is a vacation request, but there is renovations proposed that Amber's referring to. Well, thanks, Amber. We'll go ahead and, or do you want to just wait for a couple minutes and then we can get the rules and procedures up for you to read at 6 o'clock?
Thank you, Jason.
While we wait for the meeting to start, I see we have an audience member, Sarah and Todd, that have raised their hands with a question. I'm going to go ahead and allow them to talk and ask their question in advance of the meeting. Sarah and Todd, did you have something for us?
Yeah, this is Sarah Albrecht speaking. I just wanted to know if there is a way that we could get automated reminders of upcoming planning and zoning meetings. It's actually very interesting, and I'd like to sit in on a few more.
Sure. We actually have a subscription service on the website. I off the top of my head, I don't remember where exactly you go to get to it, but I could give you my email address if you'd want to just send me a note. I'd be happy to look into it and get you a link to it.
Sounds great. I actually have my email pulled up ready to take your email address.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you go to dsm.city, it's our webpage, and you scroll all the way to the bottom on the right, there'll be a big icon that says email list sign up.
Thanks, Bert.
Yep.
Thanks.
Otherwise, you can email Jason as well.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Sarah? I'll assume it did. Sarah, I see you've raised your hand again. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Looks like you lowered your hand. Okay.
Yeah, accidentally double clicked. Sorry about that.
All right. No worries. Thank you.
I now have 6 p.m. So welcome to the June 17th meeting of the Plan and Zoning Commission. I'm Dory Briles, the chair of the commission. I'll now read our rules and procedures. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the commission other than site plans and subdivision plats, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Development Services Department staff at 515-689-9485 for details on council hearings. Applicant will be given 10 minutes to present the request. If applicants wish to share materials not already submitted with the application, please email them to planning@dmgov.org so a staff host may be able to share them on the screen when you present. Proponents and then opponents from the public are then allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Staff has attempted to compile a list of people who would like to speak on each item. Staff will first call on these people and then will open it up to anyone else who wishes to speak. To request to speak during the hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom webinar via the internet or dial *9 on your phone. Once permission to speak is given, to unmute and mute, dial *6 on your phone. You will be required to give your name and address for the record prior to speaking. Also, we ask that you keep your microphones and phones on mute unless you've been given the chance to address the commission by the chair. Applicant is then allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal if any opponent spoke. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration, and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. The hearing will then be closed and the commission will discuss and vote on the issue. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless an individual present or member of the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. The City of Des Moines is pleased to provide accommodations to individuals or groups with disabilities and encourages participation in city government. Please know that typical accommodations may be limited by emergency requirements as issued by the State of Iowa and the City of Des Moines. So Tyler, if we could have roll call.
All right, so Abby Chungus.
Here.
Rocky Spazzato.
Here.
Johnny Alcivar. Johnny. Okay, I see him on here. We'll move on. Emily Webb.
Here.
Dory Briles.
Here.
Jan Freed.
Here.
Caleb Bergson.
Here.
Steve Wallace.
Here.
Carolyn Jennison.
Here.
So she just joined us. Thank you. Francis Bogus. Francis? See him on here as well. Greg Wadier?
Here.
Greg Jones?
Here.
All right. Johnny, you with us? Or Francis?
Here.
Thank you. Johnny, I think I heard you as well.
Yes, here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So we currently have 12 members present.
Thank you, Tyler. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes from the June 3rd meeting?
Sorry, this is Carolyn. I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
All right. We'll start with Carolyn Jennison.
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Abstain.
Greg Wadier.
Yes.
Francis Bogus.
Yes.
Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Yes.
Caleb Bergson.
Dane.
Jan Freed.
Abstain.
Dory Browse.
Abstain.
Emily Webb.
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato.
Yes.
And Abby Chungeth.
Yes.
So motion carries 8-4 or 8-0-4, excuse me.
Thank you, Tyler. Before we begin our consent agenda this evening, I wish to have you join me in recognizing Greg Jones. Tonight is Greg's last meeting as a commissioner. For nearly 20 years, Greg has shared his expertise, his experience, and his many creative solutions to benefit the commission and our community. Greg, you will be missed. Thank you for your public service.
Thank you, Dory, and everybody else.
And this is Jason Manis of Planning Staff. On behalf of staff, I'd like to also just extend our thanks to Greg for your time on the commission and all the work and dedication that you've shown in your service.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it, man.
I wish this is Dory, and I wish we could be together in person to give you a great round of applause, Greg. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, we'll start with the consent public hearing this evening. I'll read through each one. And if there is somebody who wishes to have the item pulled, we will do so. The first item is a request from 3524 6th Avenue, represented by Joseph Cordaro, for vacation of a 5.50 foot by 50.61 foot segment of air rights along the west side of 6th Avenue, adjoining property located at 3524 6th Avenue, to allow continued encroachment of existing second and third floor bay window projections with the renovation of the building. Is there anyone who would like to have this item pulled from the consent agenda and heard this evening?
If you're in the audience, please use the raise hand function or *9 on your phone. I'm not seeing any, Chair.
Okay, is there anyone on the commission? Okay, we'll leave item number 1 on. Item number 2 is a request from Des Moines Climate Controlled Self-Storage for vacation of the north-south segment of alley right-of-way east of and adjoining the property located at 1106 Scott Avenue in the block bounded by East ML King Jr. Parkway on the north, Scott Avenue on the south, Southeast 12th Street on the east, and Southeast 10th Street on the west. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to have this item pulled from consent and heard this evening?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, any commissioners wish to have this item pulled? If not, item 2 remains. We'll go on to item 3, request from Joppa Cheatham Park, represented by Joe Stevens, for vacation of the north-south segment of alley right-of-way west of and adjoining the property at 1010 13th Street, running north from Interstate 235 McVicker Freeway to the east-west alley in the block bounded by Laurel Street on the north, Interstate 235 on the south, 13th Street on the east, and 14th Street on the west. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to have this item pulled and discussed this evening?
Not seeing any.
Anyone on the commission? Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which is a request from Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity for review and approval for a Type 2 design alternative for property located at 1027 Pennsylvania Avenue to allow waiver of the required garage with a provision of 120 square foot storage shed. Is there anyone from the public who would like to have this item pulled from consent and discussed this evening?
And again, use the raise hand function or *9 on your phone. I'm not seeing any, Chair.
Okay. Commissioners, do any of you wish to have this item heard? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, which is a request from Todd Albrecht and Sarah Fiscus Albrecht for review and approval of a Type 2 design alternative for property located at 1506 45th Street to allow construction of a 20-foot by 20-foot detached garage within the front yard. Are any members of the public who wish to have this item pulled from consent and heard this evening? If
No
not,
hands raised.
thank you. Anyone, any commissioners like to have the item pulled? Okay, we'll move on to item 6, which is a request from Mid-American Energy Company for property located at 2399 East County Road, and they wish to have this continued indefinitely. Do we have any public members who wish to have this item pulled and discussed?
Use the raise hand function or *9 on your phone. Not seeing any.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners? If not, we'll go on to the 7th and final item on the consent agenda, which is a request from Larson Enterprises for property located at 1600 East Army Post Road to rezone the property from EX Mixed Use District to CX Mixed Use District to allow an expansion of the existing large format retail use. Do we have any members of the public who wish to have this item discussed this evening? If not, any commissioners? That includes a review of the items on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Lori, this is Jan. I'll move.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, Rocky Spozzato,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Kayla Berkson,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Francis Bogus,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Craig Jones,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
and Abby Chungath.
Yes.
Motion carries 12-0.
Thank you, Tyler. Now we'll move on to the public hearing this evening. Item number 8 is a request from Zachary Miller and Mason Terwilliger for review and approval of public hearing site plan for a type 2 design alternatives for property located at 846 East Broad Street. And Jason will be presenting this item.
Chair, members of the commission, Jason Van Esten with the city's planning staff. I'll show an aerial identifying the subject property on the north side of Broad Street at the intersection with Southeast 9th. Towards the front of the lot, you can see the house. I actually have more of a close-up here, zoomed in. This is an aerial of the subject property. It would have been taken spring of 2020. House at the southern part, existing concrete driveway. And I'd also point out that in the aerial, you can see that there's just one outbuilding in the rear yard. This originally came to staff as a request to do a second drive approach in this area and then driveway to provide access to the rear yard. This was a sketch provided by the applicant showing generally what they were looking to do. When we put this on the agenda and did notices, we received some complaints that there was a illegal business occurring. And so we did a site visit around the time that this would have been on the agenda back in May. Found that, in fact, there was a few items that needed to be dealt with from a zoning enforcement. And so it did get continued to allow the applicant to sort through that, let staff look at the site. And as part of this inspection that occurred on the 19th, we found that a second accessory building had been constructed in the rear yard without a building permit. And so putting that together with the illegal business that's operating at the place, we had both in zoning enforcement activities going on, but also needed to get them back in front of the commission for some type 2 relief for the secondary garage, in addition to having a second drive approach. Just a couple photographs that the inspector took when they're in the field. You can see a job trailer in the background and a second job trailer. This is the into the site, and this is the new garage that was constructed without a building permit. It has a metal siding and metal roof. Chapter 135 indicates that garages should match the primary structure, and how I've been enforcing that in a residential area is that if the house has lap siding, for instance, and asphalt shingles, that would be the kind of the standard. I'm not aware of a case where when we've had a request come through for metal siding that has been approved. We also received a couple of photographs from a neighbor that was part of the process of pointing out the business that's occurring here. These are a couple of the photographs that were received from the neighbor. In preparation for the staff report going out, I did have inspection staff go back out to the site. Just due to timing, we had to put the staff report out prior to them being able to get out there. This is Friday. The staff report had already been written and sent out, so we weren't able to comment, but it appears from our inspection on Friday that the applicant is still operating their business illegally at the property. Our zoning enforcement staff has asked for a lease, evidence of a lease. The applicants indicated that they've secured a commercial site for their business, but we have not, a lease has not been provided as far as I know. I haven't spoke with the enforcement staff this week, but as of Friday, we hadn't received any communication back from the applicant. And then we have these photographs from Friday. You can see the job trailer, large truck. This type of use is really a light industrial contractor storage yard. In your packet, you received the staff report. We laid out the type 2 review criteria for you, just to kind of circle back to what's actually on the agenda. What is the commission considering? It's the request to have a second driveway just from the perspective of grade and there's a tree there, there is a challenge that if there is going to be access to the rear yard, there is some physical challenges of coming off the existing driveway. So that's part A. And then part B has to do with the new garage that was built sometime after March of 2020. We did summarize in the report the zoning enforcement action. That's not, we're reviewing the type 2s and the site plan. We did, as I've mentioned, there is some physical challenge to having a driveway back there. When we originally were looking at this and we thought there was one garage and we weren't aware of an illegal business, it did seem reasonable to have a paved vehicle access back there, and that it probably needed to come from a second driveway. We do have some reservations about making these changes permanent and having them facilitate the ongoing enforcement issue here. What we are recommending is approval of Part A for a second driveway, but subject to the condition that the permit not be issued for the second drive approach until the zoning enforcement officers determine that all code violations have been resolved, and that all vehicular maneuvering areas be paved in accordance with the site sketch approved by staff, and the pavement be kept to the minimum amount necessary. On Part B, we are recommending denial of the request as proposed. We are supportive of issuing a type 2 design alternative to allow the metal roofing. I can go back to the photograph, but there is metal roofing on the other garage, which has lap siding. I think that that's less impactful on the neighbors and the residential character of the area than the metal siding. And so that's the premise of our recommendation, to approve the metal roofing, but not the metal siding. And then if you look at the conditions there, the siding would need to be a lap style siding, and then compliance to the building code and all administrative review comments. We have had a building inspector stop by. It does appear that the building was constructed in a manner that will comply with the building code. This is the notice map. We didn't receive anything in writing, and that's why you don't see anything on this map. The photographs were sent to us from a text. We did receive a couple of phone calls. So there is neighbor concern, but we don't have anything that's formal enough to show up on this map. Happy to answer your questions you have for staff.
Is the applicant present to speak this evening? You have 10 minutes.
Please use the raise hand function. I believe I see Zachary's name here at the bottom. Zachary, I've given you if you want to unmute yourself and address the commission.
This is Zach.
Zachary, please state your full name and address, and you have 10 minutes to present.
Zachary McClellan Miller, 846 East Broad Street, Des Moines. I got a couple things here. In the picture that was presented for that truck, it said premium tree service. That is not my truck. I had nothing to do with that being parked there, so I'm not sure what there is to be said about that, but that doesn't reflect on me. So I don't know if there's another company doing tree work in the area or what, but I own Central Tree Pros. That shed that was constructed in the back is not seen from the street, so I don't know if that affects anything. There's like 3 neighbors, I believe, that can see it, and I'm not sure if they've received the letters or anything about it. And then I did send in that lease, commercial lease that they requested. I'm not sure if it didn't. I replied to the person that requested it. I'm not sure if they either didn't receive it or I'm not sure what, like I say, was going on there, but and again, that they did mention that the other garage has a metal roof on it, which was permitted, which matches the metal roof on the shed that was constructed there. So that's all I have.
Are there any other people who wish to speak in support of the applicant's request? Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Use the raise hand function or *9 on your phone, please. I'm not seeing any, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the request this evening? Well, if not, then commissioners, do you have any questions for Jason at this time? If not, we will close the public hearing and have time for commissioners' deliberation.
Madam Chair, this is Rocky. I'll move staff.
Thank you, Rocky. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote.
All right, Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Browse,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Kayla Berkson,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Francis Bogus,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Abby Chungath,
Yes.
and Rocky Spizzato.
Yes.
That motion carries 13-0.
Thank you, Tyler. We're ready for item number 9, which is a request from JP Morgan Chase Bank for Chase Bank on Ingersoll, a type 2 design alternative for property located at 3101 Ingersoll Avenue and 608 31st Street to allow new construction of a storefront building type for financial service use. And Bert is going to present this evening.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Bert Drost, planning staff for the City of Des Moines. As Dory mentioned, the site plan before you tonight is for a proposed bank building at the corner of 31st and Ingersoll Avenue. The site plan requires 4 type 2 design alternatives. The first 3 deal with placement of the building, and then the 4th deals with the proposal to have 2 access drives from 31st Street. So staff is recommending approval of parts A, B, and C regarding the placement of the building, and a denial of the 4th. So I believe tonight's discussion will mostly focus on whether or not they should have 2 drive approaches from 31st Street. So you're probably familiar with the site. It's currently a 2-story red brick building that would be demolished in order to make way for the new JP Morgan Chase Bank building. The site immediately to the west and to the north has been cleared, but that is not part of the subject property. The site plan, as I mentioned, would allow for construction of a 2-story office building. Looking at the site plan here on your screen, north would be to the right. So Ingersoll Avenue is here along the left. So the first type 2 design alternative deals with the setback along Ingersoll. They're only allowed to have a 5-foot setback, which they do provide at the southwest corner of the building. But given the dimensions of the property line, it tapers out, so it has about a 13-foot setback here at the southeast corner. The second design alternative is to allow a 2-story building where a 3-story building is required. Along Ingersoll, it is 2-story, but given the change in grade, it actually appears to be 3 stories on the north facade. And I'll show you the elevations here shortly. And then the third design alternative that staff is supporting is waiver of the requirement that the entrance be recessed into the building. We don't feel it's necessary given the placement of the building more than 5 feet from that property line, and they also have some decorative architectural features around the entry. So really the 4th and final design alternative that they need is they want to have 2 drive approaches from 31st Street where only 1 is allowed. And staff does believe that there's the ability to close off this southern one and still maintain the same number of parking spaces. This parking lot has 20 spaces, so we don't believe it would be problematic to have them all served by a single access driveway. Just to show you some photos now of the building. This is along Ingersoll Avenue. You'll see these trees here along Ingersoll Avenue. These are owned by the city. They're in the city right of way, and the city arborist or the city's forestry department has requested that they remain. Again, since they're the city's trees and they're not on the private property, it's not really under the commission's purview tonight. Here's a photo along 31st Street. You can see the existing parking lot has 2 driveways, but staff is wanting to use this as an opportunity to get one of the driveways eliminated. Then here's one more photo just looking to the north and west that shows the general terrain in the area. So as I mentioned, they needed 4 type 2 design alternatives. Staff was supportive of the first 3, but we've recommended denial of that 4th and final one. We did not get any comment cards back on this. And so that concludes my presentation. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, hold on. This is Greg. I got a question for you. Sure. So I think we might agree that the building on the corner makes the most sense for building placement, right?
Right.
And they're going to need a little bit of on-site parking for this type of use. Are you suggesting they have that parking lot with just one entrance and exit, or are you suggesting something different by not approving what they're proposing?
We're just recommending that they have one entrance to this parking lot. We feel that the south entrance here could be closed off, and that since there's only 20 spaces in here, we feel that there would be adequate maneuvering and access.
Yeah, I could actually see what you're saying. Is there any kind of drive up? I don't think there is, right?
No, there's not.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Bert? If not, is the applicant present to speak? Please state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes to present.
I believe Mr. Werdeman has raised his hand. He should now have the ability to speak.
Good evening. Can I get confirmation that you're able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you all having us here this evening to talk about our Chase Bank project. I am Brian Werdeman with Kimley Horn and Associates. We're the civil engineer on the project, assisting Chase Bank with the site. I want to talk a little bit about the two accesses and the design of the site to accommodate for those accesses. If I have the ability to screen share, I can show some exhibits that would show how one access point would be a limiting factor for the accessibility of service and emergency vehicles into the site. This is a very unique property due to both the width of it in the east-west direction, as well as just the topography of not only the property, but also the adjacent properties. Is there any chance I'd be able to share my screen with
if you could email it to planning@dmgov.org, then I'll be able to share it.
Sure. I will get that over right now.
All right. And again, that's it's to planning@dmgov.org.
Planning at
DMGOV, like Des Moines Gov.
All right, it should be on its way.
I'm not seeing it come through yet. Is it a fairly large file by chance? Here it comes. Here it is. Yeah, I'll share it. Okay. So which page would you like me to start on?
We can start with this one. So this is a garbage truck turning into the development. This shows if we were to utilize just the northern access point that's currently proposed. To accommodate for a garbage truck to turn into the site, access the dumpster, and then turn around within the site and then exit through that driveway, we would actually lose 8 parking stalls of the currently proposed 20, which would bring us below the code required parking for the site. So here you can see we wouldn't be able to provide any internal landscaping to the parking lot. We would lose the the northern parking stalls that are crosshatched, and thus creating some challenges with getting a truck in and out of the site. If you go to the next one, we can see what the ambulance would look like. So on this exhibit, you can see that an ambulance would be able to come in and turn around within the site. So there isn't an issue with ambulance access. It does still create just challenges with kind of 3-point turns for customers in close proximity to the customer vehicles and the ambulance coming in and out. If we go to the next one, we can see what a fire truck would look like. So as you'd expect, truck turning in and out of the site with one axis is nearly impossible. I wouldn't expect, say, the fire department to willingly choose to come into the development, but if there was the need for emergency access and then period of, I guess, high stress turning in and fighting a fire or what have you, there's very limiting ability to get into the site if there's vehicles parked here, as well as getting out of the site. And then if we go to the next one, this shows the service or a garbage truck and how it would operate with the 2 vehicular access points. As you can see, the truck can come in, collect the trash, be able to back up within the site, and then turn and exit through the secondary access point. So in our, I guess, engineering opinion, we believe that 2 access points for this property are very beneficial from a service perspective, as well as emergency vehicular access, and just customer and public vehicular access as well, and the safety within the site and being able to navigate it without needing to make 3-point turns and just minimizing some of the conflicts internal to the property. And like I mentioned, this property is very unique. There is a lot of topography up along Ingersoll, as well as along the western property line and the northern property line, which limit the ability to do any type of cross access to the adjacent parcels to access any type of future connection either, with retaining walls along the western and northern property lines, and then just the topography that the building would make up along Ingersoll. That's all that I have this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers who wish to speak in support of this application? Please raise your hand or use the *9 function on your phone.
Go ahead, Carol.
Hi, thanks. My name is Carol Maher. I live at 701 Polk Boulevard, Des Moines, 50312. And I appreciate the fact that rather than 1 bike rack, you're providing parking for 3 bikes. It appears that they are right near the front entrance, so thank you for that. I would not be, as a bicyclist, I am not in favor of any more curb cuts that are necessary, and I would support the staff report on having just 1 curb cut. From a safety point of view for all users of the road, including bicyclists and pedestrians. More curb cuts are more danger. I also am disappointed that while it may look like a 3-story building from the back, the reason I believe that you would want a 3-story building and encourage 3-story buildings on Ingersoll isn't that they look like 3-story, rather that they encourage density. And I think this is prime real estate, and giving away an opportunity for more density is unfortunate, frankly. And I would, while I can't ask questions of the applicant, I would hope that if there's a 24-hour ATM, it would be off the front versus tucked away in a back from a safety point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in, well, we were supposed to be in support, so in support for the project?
Use the raise hand function or *9 on your phone. I'm not seeing any hands, Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to the request?
I'm not seeing any hands either for that.
Okay. And if no one else wishes to comment on this, do we have any questions for the city staff commissioners? If not, the applicant, you have 5 minutes for any closing statements to rebut anything that has been said. So Brian, do you wish to make any other comments?
Not at this time. I do appreciate the comments about bicycle activity. And we certainly, bicyclist and pedestrian accessibility from Ingersoll is a big emphasis on the project. The project team will evaluate just the comment related to ATM location. And then as it relates to the curb cuts and reducing the amount of vehicular traffic in and around the area and creating a safer environment for bicyclists, I feel that the 2 access points actually do create a safer environment for bicyclists with truck traffic in the area. With the garbage truck maneuverability into and out of the site, with the number of parking stalls that would be required for a building of this size, there's very little ability to lose parking on site. And one of, I guess, I could see a garbage man either working internal to the site and not able to maneuver, or choosing to back up onto the public road and crossing the public sidewalks on a site of this size. So I guess keeping the truck movements internal to the site was a big emphasis for us, and being able to keep the trucks internal to the site and operate it safely while having enough parking to support a project of this density does require 2 access points, in our opinion.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We'll now close the public hearing. And commissioners, what are your thoughts? So the applicant is in agreement with items A, B, and C. So the only item is item D, 1 or 2 driveways. Anybody care to make a motion?
This is Francis Bogus. I think the arguments for the applicant have been persuasive for allowing service and safety vehicles access, although I'd prefer to have 1 driveway. I think they need further emergency precautions to be taken. So therefore, I would accept staff for B, C, and A, and just also allow 2 driveway for Ds. So that's my motion.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Greg Wattier. Francis, I think I agree with you. I've been in enough parking lots and actually have one where I work where there's 20 some spots at one exit. It actually creates a little bit more of a challenging situation, not just for cars, but for the people. 31st has vehicular traffic on it as it goes under the freeway. So I think I would be in support, Francis, of your motion and all four of the requested items.
Any other commissioners who wish to speak? If not, we would go to a vote.
Dory, this is Greg Jones. I'm in a quandary on this one because I think it makes a certain amount of sense, but somebody needs to defend the pedestrians at some point. And we're not defending them. We're designing for a fire truck that will never go in there. I mean, there's a street out there. The fire truck will fight it from the street. So that's a bogus argument in my view. The dump truck or the trash truck is an issue. I'll agree with that one. And whether or not they need to lose all the stalls, it's sad to me that somebody's coming in. It looks like they're putting the wrong building on the wrong site if they can't make it fit right. But this happens all the time. And we just seem to roll over and let it happen. And we have two driveways and we go on down the road and here we go. So even though I would vote for A, B, and C, I'm going to vote no because of D. And I don't know how we sort through that. Depends on what the vote ends up, I guess. But I'm going to defend the pedestrian on this one.
Any other comments, commissioners?
Kayla, I just wonder if relocating the dumpster to maybe the north kind of row of parking would help at all with the trash truck. I wonder if the applicant has kind of examined that. I don't know what that means for the rest of the stalls, if that makes it easier or not. But I wonder if there's a middle ground that could be found.
There are no other comments, remarks. We do have a motion on the floor to approve items A, B, and C, and to allow 2 driveways.
Dory, this is Jan. It seems like we might need to separate those.
Yes, we can go ahead and vote on A, B, and C if we would make, someone could make that motion, and then we could deal with D separately.
I think Francis made a motion for all 4, so he would need to either amend his motion or withdraw it if he wants to break it out.
Yes, this is legal counsel. I was just going to suggest that as well. We have a motion on the floor, so we'll need the person who made the motion to either modify it or withdraw it so we can entertain a new motion that would have just pieces of the application that are not really in controversy.
Francis, are you willing to do that?
Yes.
So do you wish
to allow it to be divided in 2?
Okay. So the motion would now be approval of A, B, and C. So could we take a vote, Tyler?
Yeah, let's start with Dory Rouse.
Yes.
Jan Freed.
Yes.
Kayla Berkson.
Yes.
Lisa Howard.
Yes.
Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Francis Bogus.
Yes.
Greg Wattier.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar.
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Abby Chungith,
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato,
Yes.
and Emily Webb.
Yes.
So that motion carries 13-0.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yes. Mr. Bogus, then just to be clear, then you are also having a second motion for just D to allow 2 driveways then, if I'm correctly stating that?
That's correctly stated.
Very good. Thank you.
So is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor now of allowing the 2 driveways? If there's no further discussion, we do have Francis's motion to allow the 2 driveways and not approve staff on item D. So Tyler, could we go ahead with that vote?
Yep. Okay, Kayla Bergson,
No.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
No.
Francis Bogus,
Yes.
Greg Wadier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
No.
Johnny Elsevar,
No.
Carolyn Jennison,
No.
Abby Chungith,
No.
Rocky Spizzato,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Dory Briles, Dory,
No, sorry.
and Jan Freed.
No.
So that motion fails 5-8.
This is your legal counsel again, Judy Parks, commissioners. When we have in the past had a motion that has failed, then we have requested in the event of that to have an affirmative motion made. In this case, probably that would be the contra of the one that failed, so that we have an affirmative vote or an approval for a motion going to council. So that is where I leave it to you and make that request.
So commissioners, is anyone willing to make a motion to not approve staff on item D?
Be removal of denial of item D.
Right.
Right.
In other words, moving denial would mean it would remain 1 driveway because they have requested 2.
Correct.
Aren't we moving staff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
We're moving
Which is
staff.
denial of D.
Right.
I'll make the motion. This is Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, Lisa Howard.
I'm not really understanding, so I'm confused. So I voted in favor of the applicant on D. So now you're asking me to...
Greg Jones moved the staff recommendation for part D, which is denial of the request, which means they would need to have 1 driveway.
Okay, then I say no.
All right. Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Francis Bogus.
No.
Greg Wadier.
No.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Johnny Alcivar,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Abby Chungeth,
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato,
No.
Emily Webb,
No.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
and Kayla Berkson.
Yes.
That motion carries 8-5.
Thank you, Tyler. We're now ready for the final item, item number 10, which is a request from Blummerfelt Eagle Point for a type 2 design alternative for property located at 7002 Indianola Avenue to allow development of the previously approved site plan for mobile home park with the waiver of the requirement for street trees. And Bert will be presenting this item.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Bert Dross, planning staff for the city of Des Moines. The subject property is located at 7002 Indianola Avenue. It contains a mobile home park that is currently under construction. They recently had a site plan approved that met all of our requirements. However, they are now wanting to amend that approved site plan in order to waive the requirement that each lot in the mobile home park have a street tree. So the subject property is located on the west side of Indianola Avenue. It would be immediately to the east of an existing mobile home park. And if you remember on the agenda our last meeting, we actually had a rezoning for an area here to the north that would allow an expansion of this mobile home park that's already currently under construction. Here's a letter from the applicant that I'll get back to shortly. So here is the approved site plan. I apologize that the green trees don't show up real well, but you can see that each lot has at least one tree per lot frontage and another tree on the back of each lot. And you can see that the trees along these access roads through the mobile home park are set back more than we normally like. And that was because during the approval phase, they made a good case for why they needed to slide the trees back so that the trucks bringing these mobile homes to the lots can have adequate turning radiuses without having to cut the trees down. So staff had already made that concession to allow these street trees to be more or less within the side yard of the property. So the next page shows what they are proposing. And again, each of the lots on that previous slide had a street tree along the access roads, but they're no longer proposing those. So as I mentioned, they had submitted this letter here to make their case. They point out that our ordinance requires that all lots should have at least 15% of it covered with a tree canopy when the trees are mature. And they're pointing out that if the street trees were provided, they would have a 40% canopy coverage, but even without the trees, they would still have a 26% tree canopy coverage. So I just wanted to point that out and I'll let them make the case for that later. However, staff is not supportive of the design alternative. We feel that they should be providing these street trees. I'll just mention that during the review process, staff had told them that we'd be willing to grant a type 1 design alternative that would allow them to have a street tree on every other lot, but they are not, I guess that wasn't satisfactory to them. They would prefer that none of the lots have street trees. But I would just mention that even if the commission denies the type 2 design alternative tonight, that is something that staff can still grant administratively. So I'll show you some slides that they had provided that indicate why they needed to put the street trees in the side yards. They're just showing that given the limited front yard setbacks here, in order for the trucks delivering the mobile homes to the lots, in order to make the turn, they need to use all of the front yards for access in maneuvering. So by putting the trees in the side yard, that would prevent them from having to be cut down when a new unit is brought to a lot. So we did not receive any consent cards back. And as that concludes my presentation, we have recommended denial of the waiver of all street trees. Any questions for me?
If there are no questions for Bert, is the applicant ready to present? Please state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes.
All right, Mindy, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to talk with you this evening. My name is Mindy Bringleson. I'm with Clapsell Gruber Associates, and I'm the civil engineer for the site development. As you know, was stated, this is a different type of residential development than what I believe the city of Des Moines has seen in quite some time. And the current ordinance is really kind of a one-size-fits-all landscape plan for the city. And we appreciate, you know, the requirements for street trees and canopy coverage, but we just don't feel that it is really applicable to this type of development. I did send a couple other exhibits, and I see you've got them there. Yeah, perfect, thank you. So the one thing that was not really shown in the past or the previous exhibit is that these particular lots range from 50 to 58 or 68 feet wide. The homeowner, they own their homes, lease the lots, and they have an option to build garages on these lots. And also every lot contains 2 spaces for parking off the street. So in order to allow, you know, garage placement, that really hinders where we can place trees. The only really time that an owner would not be allowed to have a garage is if they chose the 58-foot wide lot and wanted to place a wide home on that lot. And then there just wouldn't be room for a garage. But otherwise, they all have options for garages. And with the tree canopy and such a limited space, we already have trees in towards the rear of the yards. We can't have them all the way to the back because we have a 10-foot easement back there for gas and electric. Then we have on the, like in the exhibit that you're looking at now, on the right side of the homes, which are the bold outlined boxes, that's where their utility services run. So that really leaves us a small, about 11-foot space to plant a tree that would overhang a home and a garage. As you know, tree limbs overhanging homes is very undesirable. So we really just don't feel like this really applies. And your typical residential development, from the back of the street to the front of a home, you have about 48 feet to plant a tree. With us planting trees in the rear of these yards, we're really only looking about 12 more additional feet for 60 feet for the rear trees, without kind of pushing in a tree more towards the front. So that is really all that I wanted to present. I appreciate your time. I know that Kevin is also on, and he can speak further to the moving in and out of the homes.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of the applicant's request? You'll have 5 minutes.
Hello.
Yes, Kevin, you can speak now.
Oh, yeah. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'd just like to thank you for letting me speak tonight. I want to apologize that Mike Flummerfeld himself couldn't be present. He had to deal with some family situations. So I just want to let you know that I've worked for this company for 20 years, and I'm actually the general manager and a community manager for several of our communities, and also at this current